Hello, I'm John Bachman.
And I'm Miranda Kahn. Coming up this hour on Newsmax Now, two big names jump into the GOP race, and more could be close behind what they bring to the table and the debate about our future nation.
Plus, new info coming in this hour about those self-described jihadists who tried to attack a free speech event in Texas. How did one of them slip through the cracks as a terrorist suspect?
And peace for now in Baltimore as a community tries to band together following the recent charges of 6 police officers. We'll take a look at what it's like for cops on the streets nowadays.
All that and much more. It's time for Newsmax Now.
Happy Monday, and thanks for starting your week off with us. A big day in presidential politics.
Yeah, it certainly is, Miranda. Also today we had just a news conference a few moments ago coming from Garland, Texas about that situation, the shooting there. We'll talk about that in a second, but let's talk about 2016 and the latest big announcement coming at 11 o'clock this morning. Well, we saw Dr. Ben Carson there.
We did.
That's who we wanted to hear from. We'll try to get to that sound a second ago.
And we saw a little shot of
Carly Fiorina. So that's who we're talking about here. But Dr. Ben Carson, the former head of pediatric neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, said today, as he announced his presidential run, that it's time for the people to, quote, rise up and take the government back. He made the announcement in his hometown of Detroit, where he lived before he moved to Baltimore. He also made it known that he is not a politician, and he doesn't want to be a politician either way. He's running for his first political office. We'll have more on Carson's announcement, hopefully coming up very shortly. But first, Miranda, let's talk about the other new entry in the GOP field.
That's right. Right before Carson, it was former HP CEO Carly Fiorina who joined the GOP race.
Yes, I am running for president. I think I'm the best person for the job because I understand how the economy actually works. I understand the world, who's in it, how the world works. I understand bureaucracy.
And Fiorina says, in her words, the federal government is a giant, bloated, unaccountable, corrupt bureaucracy. We'll also hear more from her in just a few moments and see what she said in a 2012 during an exclusive interview with Newsmax that could play a big part in the race for 2016. John?
Well, right now, investigators are combing through an Arizona home of one of the 2 men who was shot and killed at a Texas free speech event. Several reports have identified that man as Elton Simpson. He had previously been the target of a terror investigation. 2 men opened fire at the event last night in the Dallas suburbs where caricatures of the Prophet Muhammad were being displayed as part of that free speech event. The security guard was also hurt there. The attackers were shot and killed by police.
Now to Baltimore, where officials just lifted a curfew, but the state of emergency remains in effect. Parishioners flocked to churches yesterday, a much different scene than what it was a week ago when riots left buildings and cars burned, dozens were hurt, and hundreds arrested. But after days of peaceful demonstrations, officials agree.
The mayor and I both talked and agreed that we think it's time to get the community back to normal again.
6 Baltimore police officers face charges that range from murder to assault in the death of Freddie Gray. Prosecutors say he suffered a deadly spinal injury while in police custody in Baltimore.
Well, the suspect in a shooting of a New York City police officer is now being held without bail. Demetrius Blackwell was arraigned yesterday on attempted murder charges in a Queens criminal court. The officer shot Brian Moore is now in critical but stable condition after he was injured over the weekend. Blackwell allegedly opened fire after being approached by Moore and his partner on Saturday evening. Puerto Rico is taking a big step towards allowing medical marijuana. Governor Alejandro Garcia Padilla is now directing the island's health department to come up with rules for legalizing medical uses for pot. The health secretary there now has 3 months to put out a report. And more American aid finally flying into Nepal. 4 Ospreys, which look like a plane but can also fly like a helicopter, and another military helicopter, which you see right here, have arrived in Nepal to ferry aid to harder hit areas. They'll be carrying everything from search and rescue teams to shelters to areas needing help. That earthquake hit there 8 days ago. Much of the search and recovery effort has taken place in the heart of Kathmandu, but now they're trying to extend that into other areas.
A sports power couple calls it quits. After 3 years together, Olympian Lindsey Vonn and golfer Tiger Woods are no longer. In separate statements, they both blame schedules for leaving little time to spend with each other. On her Facebook page, Vonn says the decision is mutual and she'll cherish the memories that they created together.
All right, so there you go. Tough day for Tiger and Lindsey Vonn.
Yes.
We wish them the best as they move on. But also, we have much more to talk about, Miranda. We wanted to go back to those big GOP presidential announcements. Dr. Ben Carson officially announcing his run this morning.
And let's take a listen to more of that announcement right now.
And we're going to be doing different things than you've seen before because it's not political, as I've said before. And there are people who say, but you can't do this. You don't have any experience. Well, let me tell you something. I don't have a lot of experience busting budgets and doing the kinds of things that have gotten us into all the trouble that we're in now. But I do have a lot of experience in solving problems, complex surgical problems that have never been done by anybody before. I do have experience. I do have corporate board experience with 18 years at Kellogg and 16 years with Costco, as well as a biotech company. Candy and I do have experience starting a national nonprofit, Scholars Fund. 9 out of 10 of those fail. Ours is thriving in all 50 states and has won several national awards. So the point being that you can gain experience in other ways. It doesn't have to be just in politics. I can name a lot of people in politics who've been there all their lives, and you probably wouldn't want them to polish your shoe. So, you know, we need to be smart enough to think for ourselves, to listen for ourselves. And in terms of a pedigree that we need, and you know something, I have to tell you, everybody's been telling me, are you ready for this? They're going to come after you with everything under the sun. They're going to look through every record you have. They're going to try to say you're a horrible doctor. You know, everything that you can possibly imagine. I know that. That's the way they are. I expect that. It's okay. Don't worry. Just listen to what's being said. I'm not even asking everybody to vote for me. I'm just asking people to listen to what I'm saying and listening to what politicians are saying and make an intelligent decision based on your intellect.
So there you go, an announcement from Ben Carson, and you know what he was talking about there, his lack of political experience, but highlighting his experience in other realms of his career. And that conversation will be part of this race. We have Carly Fiorina also, which we're going to talk about in a second. This primary is going to sound differently in a lot of ways because what he was talking about is very true. You have a lot of folks in this race with different kinds of experience. Even Marco Rubio.
And some you wouldn't even want to have your shoes polished by,
as,
right?
Dr. Carson said there.
Yeah.
In addition to Fiorina and Carson, you have Rubio, Ted Cruz, first-term freshman senators, too, so it's going to sound different. Let's also talk about Fiorina. We talked to her at Newsmax back in 2012 at the Republican National Convention, and some of the things we talked about are definitely going to play a role in 2016. Here's a portion of that interview.
We have to be firm with China. Having done business in China for many, many years, I know that the Chinese respond to only one thing, and that is pressure on their economic self-interest. So we have to be firm, and we have to be clear that China must play by the rules.
All right, so there you have Carly Fiorina talking about getting tough with China. That did very well in 2012. She was talking about that as a surrogate for Mitt Romney at the time. I'm sure we'll hear more discussion about that. Also, something that she's going to talk about, that's the tax code and how it affects businesses. Let's listen to that.
We need a fundamental rehaul of the tax code. And when I say fundamental, I mean truly fundamental. Our tax code today is 27,000 pages. It is filled with loopholes that benefit mostly big companies and the wealthy. I think we need to throw it out, lower every rate, close every loophole. And I say that because we need a tax code that helps small business, and that means a lot simpler in addition to a lot lower.
All right, so much of the discussion, Miranda, has been about the foreign policy, but we got two new candidates. Carly Fiorina wants to talk about the tax code and trade. Ben
and
Carson,
using her business background to kind of...
And Ben Carson wants to talk about medicine and how we pay for it, which is a huge portion of our economy.
Right.
So that's the discussion moving ahead. We'll have more analysis of those two candidates throughout the day.
And will be very interesting. Coming up, how the internet is paying back a homeless teen for doing the right thing. But first, is the Baltimore DA politically motivated in the case of Freddie Gray? We'll break it down with our roundtable. And later, 6 ways to shape up before major surgery. We bring them all to you in your Health Minute. Stay tuned for this and much more right here on Newsmax Now.